Hi, everybody. Yeah, you know who this is. It is Andy Greenberg, and I'm honored to be with.
I'm Carol Greenberg. Yeah.
And we're going to be getting involved in a very, very interesting discussion today. I mean, really interesting. And I would probably say the most interesting discussion we have had so far. So you want to stay in your seats because during this discussion, there are going to be some unbelievable facts that are going to be revealed that you never even thought of and probably never knew. And I got to tell you, it's going to be very thought provoking. And the judge in this whole thing is going to be Carol. Why? Because right now you and I are not interactive. So Carol is going to represent you. And as always, she has absolutely no idea what this topic is. Well, the last time we chatted, she did know, so I can't say as always. So going back to the way things always were, she has no idea what this topic is all about.
No idea.
So I'll give you a little insight. It is totally secular, has nothing to do with Judaism, even though it might appear that way. Let me go ahead and put that disclaimer in right now. So no matter what faith an individual is belonging to or what belief a person has or doesn't have, this discussion is certainly appropriate for you. So let's begin. We're going to be talking about the indifference to religion and countries that do not allow religion to be practiced. And then we're going to dig deep into it and kind of find out why and why not, and what are some of the rationales behind it. And again, things you probably never knew of. All right, let's begin. Carol, very, very simple. I want you to be honest, extremely honest as you always are. Do you believe that a God exists?
I believe that a God exists.
Without proof?
Without proof.
Oh, you took a deep breath there.
No, without proof. I believe it.
All right, we're not going to get involved as to whether there is a God or not, so don't worry. That's for another discussion at another time if we ever bring it up. So when a person believes in God, the question becomes, what does it mean to be religious? And I'm not asking you if you are religious, but what does it mean to be religious?
It means to follow a set of rules for your religion, to practice some of the holidays that your religion is all about, and to have faith. The word that you use, to have faith.
Faith in?
Faith in the belief of your religion and the God that you worship.
Okay. So there's another word that people use instead of worship. Worship is fine, and that is devotion.
Devotion.
So the question is, when someone practices a religion, I think worship is part of that practice, but the devotion to the religion, meaning we're devoting part, if not all of our lives, to that belief. So you're looking at me funny. You don't buy that.
Yes, but the devotion doesn't have to be like overwhelming. I mean, people can practice their religion without being devoted. Devoted means like all your energy.
Well, there are some people that do that.
Some people don't, right, but some people don't put all their energies into it.
So it's known as a faithful devotion to an acknowledged ultimate reality or deity, and it is scrupulous and consensually faithful. So, as you said, some people are fervent, some people are religious. We're going to talk a little bit later about how religion plays into the world population, but I wanted to define what religion is. So right now, do you accept that definition?
I do.
Okay. So we have those that practice their religion, and we have those that basically are indifferent to their religion. And I got to be careful when I say their, because most of the time people are born into a religion. So when you're born, all of a sudden you find out, hey, I was born into this faith, and there is some parental umbrella, if one exists, that says you're born into this faith. This is who you were predetermined, predestined to be. Would you buy into that?
Yeah.
So basically, unless when you get older you decide to convert, then that's the religion you're born with. Okay, so there are two terms I want to talk about: religious indifference and religious intolerance. So, what is religious intolerance? What do you think that means?
That means that people shun whatever beliefs you have. They don't tolerate what you believe in.
What people is that?
What people what?
When you say people shun, what
When
define the people?
Don't believe in any of the principles that you believe in.
Okay, so religious intolerance for this discussion are governments of countries who forbid people to either practice a religion or practice part of their devotional activities. And there are decrees and laws against it. Okay, so what would religious indifference be?
When a person doesn't abide by their religion or doesn't practice their religion, doesn't care about their religion.
Okay, so they're exactly right. They're indifferent to it. Now, I'm just going to tease you a little bit, and then we're going to get to this a little bit later, but I just want to tease you for a moment. So some of the questions that we're going to be talking about, and again, she has absolutely no idea what this is there a connection between religion and crime? Is there a connection between religion and income? Is there a connection between religion and social fabric and social structure?
So which one? Let's break it down. You gave us three different things.
Right, and I said we're going to talk about it later.
Okay, we're going to
talk about it later. But I want to cover two things first, but I just wanted to give you a bit of a teaser. So here we go. What percentage of the world do you think, and let's see if your answers match, what percentage of the world do you think people are not religious? Just give me a percentage. Not religious, meaning they're totally indifferent to their religions.
25%.
All right, and why do you come up with that number?
I just came up with that number, 25%.
I would tell you that the number is incorrect. I would ask you if you think it's lower or larger.
I think it's larger.
16%.
It's lower.
Only, and I use that, only 16% of the people worldwide consider themselves not to be religious.
Interesting.
I don't know what number you would have thought of. Interesting. Which, by the way, that's a lot of people. Because it turns out to be 1.2 billion people.
Wow.
Now, we've all heard of a fellow by the name of Karl Marx. Karl Marx made a very famous statement that a lot of people know, and that is religion is the opium of the people.
The drug of
the people. Sigmund Freud says that God was an illusion, and worshippers were reverting to childhood needs of, what do you think?
I don't like that statement at all.
Well, you didn't hear it. You didn't finish the sentence. In other words, that God is an illusion and worshippers are reverting to the childhood needs of fill in the blank. Very interesting.
Childhood needs of, I don't know.
Security and forgiveness. And therefore, they perceive in their minds that that is what a God provides them. So both Sigmund Freud and Karl Marx, for example, thought the whole thing was absolutely crazy. And there was another psychologist, John Bowdley, that said that the influence of a religion on children goes directly to their emotional and social development. And it's a connection. It's a connection that children need. Now, the question is, do a lot of children believe in God? That's another issue. But religion is there to provide that connection. Do adults need...
Well,
go ahead.
Yes, but some of those kids grow, they may be connected in the beginning, but some of those kids who grow to be adults become disconnected, and that's why they leave their religion, right. Because...
And we're going to talk about those reasons why. But does an adult need connection?
We all need connection.
Okay, to what?
To everything.
Yes, so adults need connections for friends when falling in love, and to inanimate objects, and these are strong connections that sometimes transfer to religion because you've got to connect with a God. And we know this because studies were made with children, and they called it cognitive decoding. This is important as I set this up, so it might be a little bit too much data, but bear with me. And it starts in childhood through pretend play. What do? they begin to imagine what somebody else will do in pretend play, and therefore, according to psychologists, they begin to believe what an omnipotent force, meaning a God, would do under certain situations.
So you're saying that you're relating their imaginary friend to that's the way they can picture what God might do.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I told you. I told you. She's speaking for you. I told you.
Interesting.
It gets better. Gets better. So watch this. There are people that suggest, psychologists. When I say people, I'm talking about psychologists, that dancing, singing, and achieving a trance-like state are prominent in very old societies, such as the Sentinelese, but more commonly the Australian Aborigines, if I pronounce it. Yeah, that's the one. And what they found out was when you're in a trance-like and you're dancing and you're singing, which a lot of people do at a religious worship or a religious service, what does it do? It increases levels of serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin in the brain, which makes us feel good. So there is a theory that says it makes you feel good and it creates all these things to happen. Okay, how are we doing so far?
Good.
Good? All right. So we all said that, maybe when we were children, we have this imaginary friend. We figure out what we do. As we get older, we leave religion. But remember, worldwide, only 16% of the population leaves religion. And you might be saying to yourself, which is perfectly fine, wow, I might be one of those 16%. I never knew. But let's examine. And this is where we begin to talk about religious indifference. Okay? And among certain religions, it is very predominant. One of them is Judaism. Another one, to a point, might be Christianity, but we'll find out why. So, there are basically 4 reasons why people leave a religion. Before we go ahead, I'd like to make this interactive. What do you think they are? Just by headline. What do you think they are?
The rules were too strict.
Okay, rules are too strict. Okay, good.
Got nothing out of it.
Got nothing out of it.
Had no time to go.
Had no time to go. Okay.
And didn't matter.
Okay, let's see how she does. So the 4 different categories are, number 1, you didn't hit this one, don't believe. They no longer believe. Why? Listen to this. Because they learned about evolution when they went to college or high school, and the theory of evolution overtook the theory of creation through a God. Now, I am not going to say which one was right or wrong. I'm not here for that. Okay? Now, what was the other thing? Too many people who are religious, being Christians or Jews, do un-Jewish and un-Christian things. And therefore, it doesn't believe. Religion is an opiate of the people. Rational thought makes religion go out the window. Why? Because we don't have any proof. And rational thought through scientists say we absolutely need that. Okay? And I just realized they say somewhere along the line, I didn't really believe it. And the more I study, the more I talk myself out of it. Does that make sense?
Yes, but the oxymoron of that is that we've all heard about someone who doesn't feel well or sick. Pray for them. So pray for them. We're having a prayer chain, and so even from people who don't believe. So if they don't believe, who are they praying to? So
the number one reason why some people return to religion short term is fear of death, fear of disease, fear of disaster. So yes, you're absolutely right. All right, let's go to the second one. People do not like organized religion.
Yeah, too many rules.
Too many rules, not necessarily in the religion, but too many rules. For example, religious groups are more diverse than they are uniting. There is a lot of that stuff going on. If you take a look at the different Christian beliefs, if you take a look at the different Jewish beliefs, if you take a look at the different Jehovah's Witnesses, all basically from one umbrella, patterning out that
right, but there's somebody that's making the rules for you, telling you what you need to do.
Yep.
That's why people don't like that.
Yep. And here's another one, which I'm surprised you didn't hit on, because I know this is a very big one for you, and I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I don't attend services or go to church anymore I just believe that religion is very personal. I don't need to be with a bunch of people singing and dancing and getting into a trance like. I can do that at home on my own if I really intend to. Religion is becoming more of a business than it is a worship. I've heard that one before, haven't you? What about this one? The clergy, they're not so clean themselves.
That's so true.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Sex abuse. And another thing is that religion is out of date with the modern times, and they refer to church teachings on homosexuality and gay rights, LGBTQ rights. So they say, you know what? It's out of date, not for me. That's part of religious indifference. Did you know that? Okay, let's go to another one. Religiously unsure or undecided. Meaning, I think there's something out there, but I'm not quite sure. Which, by the way, remember that another discussion I want to add into it, there's an agnostic and there's an atheist. Okay, what's the difference?
I don't know. Agnostic, an atheist, I don't know.
Agnostic says I'm not sure.
An atheist says I don't believe.
I don't believe.
Okay.
But you've heard my old expression that many, many times. Can I say it again?
Sure.
I can prove that everybody believes in God. No, I don't care what religion. Why? You might have heard me do this. At the moment of perceived impending doom, what does somebody cry out?
Oh my God!
At the moment of heightened ecstasy, what do people cry out?
Oh my God!
There it is. I don't know. You tell me. All right, last one.
So who are we talking to?
Last one. Here we go. An inactive believer. I basically stopped going to church when I was in college. I'm never going to be super religious. You said I don't have time to go to church or synagogue, and I don't.
Also said I don't get anything out of it.
And exactly right. I don't get anything out of it. So that's the difference between religious and religious indifference. And I wanted to cover that because there are people in this world who want to practice their religion. They do. But governments say you can't. You must not. When you live in this country, no religious practice whatsoever. You do what I tell you. Now, why would a government come out and do things like that?
Because they're afraid of the people taking over.
What do you mean taking over?
I don't know. People banding together and taking over the government.
Well, sort of.
Or they don't like. They think there's some part of the religious practice that's not good.
Partly. My theory, and others, is as follows. Because if somebody becomes religious, they are devoted and they worship a God, which means the power of their life is over them through a God, which means the government doesn't have that power. And you'll see in a moment when I go through a list of some of these governments, it tends to be true. Not necessarily in order, but Myanmar, also used to known as Burma, they are on a list that the United States put together called the International Religious Freedom Act of 1998. And every year the government compiles a list of countries that are oppressive to their people by religion. Okay? And there's a lot of them. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but here's just a few. Myanmar, okay? Myanmar does not allow people to practice their religion, and there are conflicts of 70,000 people who leave the country. There are 23,000 people who are internally disciplined, and there's a particular sect in the Rakhine state where 1.1 million what they call Rangahi live, and they are in fact a religious group. Another one, by the way, the country of Burma just went through a revolution. The military junta took over, and they don't want to have anything to do with religion. China, listen to this. China does allow normal activities. So what are they doing on the list if they okay normal religious activities?
Because of human rights?
Nope. They just don't actually specify what normal means. So, the government officially recognizes Buddhism, Taoism, Muslim, Catholic, and Protestant belief systems, but there are widespread reports on attacks on other sects most famously the Falun Gong and the Uyghur Muslims. In other words, they will let you practice a religion that still allows the Chinese government to have power over you. There is another country called, I never heard of this one, Eritrea. Eritrea, but we haven't talked about North Korea yet. North Korea we believe, is a totalitarianism government, and they only want to have one person worshipped. And who is that person?
That's that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
The president, or whatever you want to call him.
Kim Jong-un or something
Right.
like that, right? And freedom of religion or belief does not exist, as in fact profoundly suppressed. And I want you to keep these things in mind.
Whoa.
Sudan, they have penalties on people that do not practice Sharia law, and if you are Muslim, thus hindering who had penalties on both Muslim and non-Muslims. You see, we live in the United States of America. We have religious freedom. And there are countries where people want to worship a religion because they are part of the 84% of the world that does practice religion. You'd be surprised, by the way, what percentage of the United States, I'm going to get to this a little bit later, actually practices religion on a daily basis. Wait till you hear that one, so just bear with me. I want to give you some of the news here first. There's another country, Tajikistan, I never pronounced this right. They forbid Muslims, Protestants, and Jehovah's Witnesses and imprisons individuals with made-up criminal allegations. And Uzbekistan, they have 13,000 people in jail as a result of their religious practice. So what we've done so far, just to give you a recap, we have identified what religious is. We've identified why people are indifferent to religion. We've identified what percentage of the world actually feels religion and practices religion. And we've identified countries that no longer allow people to practice their religion. So before I continue, speaking on behalf of the folks here, what do you think so far? Well, give me some reactions, Carol.
I think it's mind-boggling. I think, as you said, because we live in the United States, we take everything for granted. When you when you don't have any suppression, and you're allowed to do things on your own, even though there's this tension between other religious groups, then when you go to a country that just forbids any kind of religious practice, it might even throw you in jail. That's mind-boggling.
So here's a tough question. If there is an answer, what's worse? Religious indifference or religious intolerance?
Religious intolerance.
Okay.
That means they're not allowed to practice their religion.
Right. But yet, 14% of the world's population are not religious.
Right.
So therefore...
But that's their choice. It's only, you just said 15%, 16%.
14.
That's not a big number. It's their choice.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see.
But as you just said, 84% are.
So there was a study that was also done, and these numbers are important. I'm not going to give you the whole world, doesn't matter, as to what percentage of the countries feel that religion is important. Here we go. China, what percentage, and we're not going to do this on every country, what percentage of the Chinese population do you think finds religion important?
Well, according to what you said about suppression, I would say maybe 10% find...
Not bad, 7%.
See? 10%.
7% feel so. What about Japan, where there's absolutely no religious intolerance? You can do whatever you want.
I think 70% of the people feel, no, what are we talking about, indifferent?
No. I feel that,
yeah,
feel religious.
70%.
You agree with her? Yep, 13%.
13%?
Yeah,
all?
that's all. All right. Oh, here's one. How about Sweden?
I don't even know what kind of denomination they practice, but let's go with 20%.
19, not bad. And let's go with Hong Kong.
Hong Kong, which is now being taken over, let's go with 11%.
26. All right. Well, a couple more points here, because then it's really going to start building. So the world's religions, listen to this. Christianity, 2.38 billion people. Islam, I didn't realize, Islam, 1.91 billion. Hinduism, 1.16. Buddhism, 507 million. folk religions, don't ask me what that is. 430, folk, F-O-L-K.
Right.
And Judaism, 15 million. Other, 61 million. Unaffiliated atheists, like we talked about, 1.2 billion. Interesting.
Interesting.
So far. Okay, let's see what else is new. All right, let me give you some other countries, and these might surprise you. Here we go. Germany. What percentage of the German people feel that religious is important in their daily life?
15.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. Just like 15.
40.
40%?
40%.
Wow.
And think of their history. Think of their history. Oh, let's go north. What about Canada?
Canada? I think only 8%.
42%.
Oh, wow.
Find
I'm
religion important in their daily life. All right. Here's a good one. Israel. Remember, Israel's made up of all religions. We don't just want to focus on Judaism. What percentage of the Israelis consider religious an important part of their daily life? What do you think? Let's see if your answer matches.
35%.
51, where is it here? 51%. Over half the country. Now, that means the other half doesn't.
Right.
Which is interesting.
Right.
But it's a lot better than the norm. And let's get to the United States of America. And let me rephrase the question so we have a perfect understanding. What percentage of the American population consider religion a part of their daily life? Remember we said religion was devotion, right, and worship. What
45%.
I'm going to tell you it's higher.
Wow. 72%.
Not bad. 69%.
I'm only off by 4.
Now, if they broke it down by religion, okay, I'm just going to go out on a limb that's saying if they asked the Jewish people the same question, that number would probably be, it is, not probably, is significantly lower. As a matter of fact, there was a survey done a while back that said Judaism is the least practiced religion in the United States, and the only organized religion, which, by the way, this is considered organized by the United States Constitution, that is less, is atheism. Okay, all right. Italy. What do you think? Italy.
Italy, I think it's pretty religious, so I'm going to go with like 79%.
72. Not bad.
Wow.
Not bad. I'm just going to do a couple more countries. Watch this. Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. I'll go with 39%.
It's higher.
50.
Higher.
75.
Higher.
85?
Yes.
Wow.
Now, there's a trend that you're going to see in just a few moments that is going to become extremely clear. 85%. What about Iraq?
Well, I'm going to say that it's going to be 80%.
Not bad. 84. One or two more. India.
Hinduism. How about 70%?
Higher.
85.
Higher.
90?
Yes.
Wow.
90% consider it. Now, I said Israel before, but this study also had another country or area of Israel called Palestine. So they surveyed Palestine. What percentage in Palestine consider religion an important part of their daily life?
40%.
Higher.
50?
Higher.
60?
Higher.
70?
Higher.
80?
Higher.
90?
Higher. 93%.
Wow.
93%. Just two more. Bear with me because you'll see something. This one is actually different than I would have expected. A country called Qatar, spelled Qatar. What is it?
What is it?
Qatar.
Qatar?
Yeah, Qatar. Qatar it's called.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What? How many percent?
Yeah.
45.
95%.
Wow.
Morocco, 97%. And there are four countries where the number came out to 100%. What does that mean?
100% of the people, the population, believe that the religion is important?
No, not important. They do
practice.
something. They practice it every day.
Okay,
Four countries. Are we ready? Somalia, Niger, Ethiopia, and Bangladesh. Now, Did you notice a trend? Did you notice any kind of a trend?
Well, if you're gonna tell me that the 4 countries you just mentioned are poor countries.
Yes.
Okay, so poor countries need something to believe in.
Yes. The poorer the country, the more they practice the religion. The poorer the country, the more they practice the religion. Which means, for example, in Bangladesh.
I mean, the religion isn't doing them any good.
Go with go ahead.
They're practicing it. They're being faithful. They're being devoted, and they're still poor.
So what are you saying?
I
Throw
don't
religion
know what
out
I'm
with
saying.
Throw religion out with the baby water?
No,
Throw
but
whatever the expression
why aren't
is.
they being rewarded for their devotion?
Now, does that make you wonder about religion and etc.
No,
and the
it makes
existence
me
of a
mad.
God?
It makes me mad.
Who are you mad at?
I don't know. I'm mad for them that their country is poor.
Yet the poorer the country, the more religious practice there is. One country fooled me, and that was Qatar, because I'm thinking they're wealthy because of oil, and they have a great airline, Qatar Airlines, and you land in that place. I haven't been there yet, and you take it, but you see some pictures. The buildings are beautiful, but that one surprised me.
That doesn't mean the people are well off.
Exactly right. Exactly. By the way, there are some countries that are in the 99% range. Thailand, Egypt, Malawi, Sri Lanka, Yemen, Indonesia. All poor countries. What do you think? Wow. So is God helping them or not?
It doesn't appear to be that way.
Well, there's another trend. So if all the poor people are practicing religion, what happens to the folks when they start to make money and have good living conditions? What is their connection to religious faith and devotion in their daily basis?
You think they would appreciate it and continue it?
No. What's the true hard data?
What?
What's the true hard data? What does the data say? There is one exception, though, but what does the data say?
Tell us, please.
The data says the more money you have,
the less you practice?
the less you practice. That is confirmed without any questions whatsoever. How about that? The more you have, the less you have. Now, what does religion do for a lot of people? It gives them hope. But the question is, and again, I'm not here to stress religion. I'm not here to stress any particular religion over the other. This is totally a secular discussion. The question then comes up, why don't these people lose hope? In other words...
That's a very good question.
Yeah, why don't they lose hope?
If their station in life is not being lifted time and time again, I don't know. What's the answer?
Okay.
I don't know.
And why is it when your prayers are finally answered, if you pray, and you make a lot of money, you say, all right, I got what I want. That's it. I'm out of here.
But not everybody does that. I mean, if people get out of a certain situation and why, then there are a lot of people that give back.
What do you mean?
They give back to the community, and they don't forget where they came from, and they might not attend religious services as often as they did, but they would.
They're philanthropic, I think is what you're saying? You don't have to practice a religion to be philanthropic.
No, you don't.
No. All right.
But you're still doing good.
Let's go. Let's go on to another topic. What do you think when I say where countries practice religion fervently? What does that do? Fervently, I pronounced it right? Yeah, fervently. What does that do for their social health as a community? Does it help it, or does it make it worse?
No, it helps it.
Yep.
It helps it.
It sure does, right? You agree with that?
Yeah.
That in the more religious countries, that's where you have a better social fabric. Totally false.
Because you
totally false.
Totally false?
Totally
Why?
false.
I thought you build, if you practice, you build community.
See, I told you this would be interesting.
Why?
Totally false. Because in the countries that they've studied, and they studied every one of these. By the way, you might ask me, which I'm sure you're surprised you haven't, how recent is this?
Yes.
Some of this is late 2020, early 2021, and one of them is only from 2017 and 2018. So it's pretty current. What they found out is the following. The more religious a society is, it does not help their social structure. It actually decreases it. And watch this. Since 2007, there's been an increasing number of countries who have a high level of government restriction on religion, social hostilities involving religion. See, the answer is because people practice a religion, there seems to be more hostilities. So in the world today, 26% of all the countries who have restrictions have social hostilities involving religion. And social hostilities, meaning people fighting against each other, involving religion, including violence and harassment by private individuals, organizations, or groups, have risen significantly, which is really interesting. So, for instance, the average score for government limitation on religious activities in Europe has doubled, and the average score for harassment in the Middle East and North Africa, as an example, has increased by 72%. Meaning more countries are forbidding religious practices, and I'm going to share something with you. If I say the country of France, pretty much democratic?
France?
Yeah.
You think so?
Think so. Religious freedom abounds? What do you think?
No, there's problems there.
They got problems. First of all, in the Jewish religion, there's some discussions about kosher, there's discussions about circumcision, and then, by the way, they're not restricting it only to the Jews. They're also taking a look at it from the Muslim point of view, where the ladies are not allowed to wear the head coverings. Yes. And I bet you we never thought of that before. And there are many other countries that are basically doing the same thing. With so many people practicing the religion, some of these countries are totally upset. For France continues to enforce a national ban on full face coverings in public, and that affects the Muslim women. And in some cases, they don't even allow the dress to be worn. And in the country of Qatar, remember I said that they had a high religious faction?
Right.
But look at that government. It's a monarchy, so this is what they're doing. They passed laws that target non-Islamic faiths by restricting public worship, the display of religious symbols, and proselytizing. I'm going to pause. What do you think?
I think it's nuts. I think I wouldn't want to live in any of those countries.
What would be the perfect society to live in under those conditions?
I think the perfect society would be where everyone's has freedom to practice whatever they want, and they're not judged by others.
Oh, okay. So that's like the Garden of Eden. That's utopia. Because guess what? Within religions themselves, people are always judging somebody else on how they practice their faith, or even if they don't practice their faith. So it's crazy. But here's something on the opposite. There was in Africa, some of the largest increases in religious practices are happening in Africa. Why? It's a poor country. And there's a country called Comoros that passed a constitutional referendum that declared Islam the state religion.
So now, everybody has to practice it, whether they're Islamic or not.
Yep. And in Thailand, in 2017, it elevated the status of Triverdia Buddhism by mandating special promotions through education, propagation of principles, and the establishment of measures and mechanisms.
Wow.
Yeah. Shocking. Are you finding this interesting? Because, wait a minute, I haven't really even given you the big news yet. I'm holding it for the end, so stay with me. Do I have your attention?
You do.
Have I lost you yet?
No.
No. Okay, here we go. It's said over and over again that without faith in God, society would fall apart. I started to talk about that a little bit later. If you don't worship God, pray to God, and place God in the central heart of culture, things will get ugly. That was your belief earlier.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, well, let's see if that's true. In his classic Reflections on the French Revolution, Edmund Burke argued that religion was the underlying basis for civil social order. Now, let's take the United States of America. We're split, 51%, 49%. How are we doing? Do we have social fabric and structure among the 50% that actually do something religious on a daily basis, or is our society split apart?
Split apart, fragmented.
You ever hear of a guy by the name of Voltaire?
Yes.
Yep, the Enlightenment philosopher argued that without theism, society would not function. He says it is necessary for people to have profound engraved in their minds the supreme being and creator. And yet, some guy by the name of Alex de Tocqueville similarly argued that religious faith is indispensable for a well-functioning society, that no religion is dangerous. But I want to get to two of the most profound personalities known in America today and disclose what their religious connection is with the fabric of social society.
Please do.
The two really famous people. Are you ready for these guys?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Newt Gingrich and Mike Huckabee.
Okay, so go ahead, tell me. Spill the beans.
All right, hold on to your hat because you might not like this. Newt Gingrich, after the massacre of school children in Newton, Connecticut, proclaimed that such violence was the obvious and inevitable result of secularism in our society. So he's arguing that once you have a God, you've got a social fabric and a social structure, and Mike Huckabee agreed. Now, first we have to define what is a social structure. That means good living conditions, lack of violence, lack of murder, lack of rape, and all that kind of stuff. So, now we're going to show you some data that says, well, it might not be working. Here we go. Ever hear of a state called Mississippi and Alabama?
Yes.
Yeah, they have the worst quality of life in all the states, and they're the most religious.
So you're saying in order to be more religious, you have to have a poor country?
Yep.
Wow.
No, it gets better. You and I used to live in New Hampshire.
Right.
Okay?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. Thank you very much. Was that a religious state?
I don't know.
Nope.
No.
Vermont and New Hampshire are the two least religious states in the country. They also rank as the two highest states with the best quality of life.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Well, I told you it'd be interesting. I told you to hang in there.
We were only there for 4 years.
Yeah, I understand. The more secular tend to fare better than the more religious on a vast majority of measures. Here we go, including homicide, violent crime rates, poverty rates, obesity and diabetes, child abuse, educational attainment levels, income levels, I'll argue with that one in a moment, unemployment rates. In other words, what they're saying is those that are not religious have less diabetes, less child abuse, more educational attainment, higher income levels, lower unemployment rates. And
so
look at that! Did you see that?
Watching it would think, well, why should I practice my religion then?
Hey, I told you I'm not pushing an agenda here.
Wow.
I'm talking about religious indifference
Right.
and religious intolerance and making the connection between the two. I'm glad you said that. I am not here to say don't practice religion because that's not my own belief. I don't want you to leave the room here saying, my God, my years of believing in a God has just been shattered in less than an hour, but it sounds like that's what's occurring.
No, I still feel bad. I understand all the logistics. I just still feel bad for those people living in a poor country.
No. I understand that. Now, I have more to give you. I don't want to burst all the bubbles here. Okay, here we go. They're the most secular nations, like Scandinavia. Remember we talked about them before?
No, we talked about Sweden.
Well, Sweden, which is part of it. Japan, Australia, and the Netherlands are faring much better on nearly every single indicator of well-being imaginable than most religious nations on the earth.
So then go ahead.
Such as Colombia, Jamaica, El Salvador, Yemen, Malawi, Pakistan, Philippines, I'll add Puerto Rico.
Okay, so you're saying if they're not practicing their religion, then there's no reason to fight or have division among the religious group, and therefore they can put everyone on a same playing level and let them amass wealth and everything else.
Yeah, so let me go back to something else. You're not going to like this. So in the beginning, I quoted Karl Marx that said, "Oh, the religion is the opium of the people." Yikes! Maybe he was right. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe if they stop, and again, this is going to...
Meaning opium destroys you.
Yeah, there are answers I'm going to get to. I just got to set this
Opium
up.
destroys you.
All right. Ever hear of something called the Saving the Children Foundation?
Maybe.
Never heard that before?
Yeah, I guess.
All right. So they publish an annual, what they call Mother's Index. And here's what they came up with, and what they did was rank the best and worst places on earth to be a mother. Okay?
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you, the research has been done on this. And the best are almost always the most secular nations on earth, while the worst are among the most devout. There is a nonprofit organization called the Vision of Humanity, and they publish something called the Global Peace Index. And according to their rankings, the most peaceful nations on earth are among the most secular. Sweden is kind of peaceful. Secular. While the most and while the least peaceful are among the most religious. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'm going to, again, this is totally secular. I am familiar with the Orthodox Jews. I'm not one of them. I'm conservative. But their data is the opposite. And that is the more they tend to make more money than anyone else. They tend to have less violence than anyone else. I know they've got child abuse, but they and domestic not child abuse, but domestic violence. They tend to have less than that, but and their society is very well knit. So if there is one microcosm of a society that goes totally against everything we looked at, now I'm going to bring a little bit of God-fearing into this, okay? Then that shatters it. Now, what do you think about that statement?
Well, I know that the data that you're saying, I've heard that to be true.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's completely the opposite of all the other data.
Yep. So listen to this. This is going to be even more interesting. Malwa, which is a country in the middle of, I don't know where that is one of the most religious nations in the world. We've talked about them before. And according to a 2009, it's not that old, Gallup poll, 99%, as I mentioned, of the population considers religion an important part of daily life. It's also one of the poorest. This is going to hurt. With the annual per capita income of $870 a year. Not a day, not a month, a year. And yet they still practice. Okay? And it is shown that a Baltimore paleontologist concluded that religion is most able to thrive in seriously dysfunctional societies. There is no situation where you can have a highly religious nation that's highly successful socially. See, you didn't expect all of this, did you? No. All right. But it's not the fear of death that drives people to the religion. It's not a God gene or a God mobile in the brain or some sort of connection. It's basically a physiological coping mechanism. Coping and hope. And when you don't have an income problem, you don't need any coping mechanism, do you?
No. But after a while, don't they say, hey, this is not working, I'm not getting anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You want more of this data, or should I switch to something a little bit more upbeat?
Whatever you want to do.
In countries with per capita income of more than $25,000, 45% of the respondents answered yes, religion is part of their day, and that's where it starts. To balance out. And again, the more secular a nation, the more it's modernized, the more money people make, the less they are. There is an exception, and that exception is the United States of America. Because we are one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and this is where I'm going to start to put this all together. We are one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and we are still quite religious, with 51% of the American public thinking religion is certainly part of the world's life. And that's what that tells us. Now, why is that? Let's come to a conclusion. This is totally different than you might have thought. Carol, what percentage of Americans do you think believe that God exists?
45.
Higher?
60.
Higher?
80.
Yes.
80%.
80% of Americans believe in God. Now, by the way, if you take the Jewish religion, that number is considerably lower. 60% of Americans say they have no doubt that God exists. Let's compare that to some other countries. Compared to France with 15% and the United Kingdom of 16%. Now, I can probably answer why this is happening.
Why?
Why? Because the United States of America was formed for a lot of different reasons. One of them was religious freedom.
Right.
Because when they were in Europe and around the world, blah, 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 the Puritans could not practice their religion. They came over. When many religious people came over from all faiths, they were not able to practice their religion. So they came to the United States where they found it, and they were certainly able to do so. Now, watch this. What percentage of Americans go to at least one weekly religious service?
53%.
25%.
Wow.
So that's very interesting. 80% believe in God.
But only
25%
okay,
go to a
so
service.
maybe that falls into the back. They don't have time. They can't get there. It's not that important to them. Even you can say, I believe in this, but I can't find the time to do this.
Well, see, that's why I was so picky on the word devotion. Where is the word devotion? If you're devoted to something, you're going to make time and room, aren't you? Now,
but you can believe in something without being devoted to it.
Well, wait a moment. Okay, let me ask you this question. This is a tough one. Am I devoted to you?
You're devoted to me.
Right?
Okay, so, but this is not I'm not a religion.
No. Just bear with me. Bear with me, please.
All right, I'm bearing.
Am I in love with you?
Yes.
If you believe in a God, should you love that God?
Yes. But you're not going to have to go to services all
That's
the time.
the devotion. See. That's the devotion. I told you to stick around. That's the devotion, isn't it?
Well, you say so, yeah.
No. I'm asking you.
But
it's a linear logic and reasoning. No. Well, come on.
No.
No what?
Okay, you can be. There are some people that are more devoted than other people.
So,
someone can believe in God and just not want to go because it doesn't move them, or it doesn't. He can't. I don't.
Why
know.
do they have to be moved if they're worshiping somebody or something that they're
because
devoted to?
the service is boring, or maybe something like
All
that.
church services are boring.
I
haven't
don't
gone to them, or whatever. All right, here we go. Watch this. Only. Listen to this. Only 4% of Americans never believed in God.
That's all?
That's it. Compared to 24% in France and 20% in England. Wow. And by the way, I didn't finish my sentence. 24% of the people go to services compared to 5% in France and 10% in the United Kingdom. So, we took you through a journey of religious intolerance and religious indifference. The one thing I didn't want to do, okay, and I hope I didn't do it, is change anybody's perception of what religion was about, how a person practices their religion, or their belief in God. But, I don't know, do you think it was important to have this discussion?
I think so. They learned the difference between the two things and learned all the facts, and the numbers really surprised me. And the fact that the more religious they were, the poorer the country was, really surprised me. And the fact that it didn't adhere to a social fabric really surprised me.
So isn't it interesting that people are still to this day, and I'm not going to talk political, are trying to get into the United States of America?
They're trying to get into there. I don't know how many of them trying to get in because of religious freedom. They're trying to get in because their government suppresses everything and because they want a better quality of life.
And they probably have not read the data that 80% of Americans believe that a God
But
exists.
I'm sure the streets are still paved with gold to anybody that comes from a country other than the United States.
So the one thing that the data doesn't reflect, those 25% of the people that go to a religious service, I don't know whether that represents the poverty line or below poverty or wealth. So that part is not quite clear, whether that matches with the rest of the world or doesn't match with the rest of the world. There were some studies that were done that I looked at a couple of years ago, but I'm not prepared to introduce them at this particular point. The only data that I do know goes back to the Orthodox, and that data is clear, done by independent researchers known as the Pew organization, very reputable, and the Gallup organization, which are very reputable. And most of this information came from the Pew organization worldwide, as I mentioned, the government and Save the Children and some other extremely reputable organizations. And I'm going to conclude this way, okay? It was clear that no matter who you talk with, a psychologist, a physiologist, a doctor, anybody, they will always say that when you are religious, it makes you feel good. Remember we talked about those chemicals, and I anchored that, which means I put it in the water because I want to lift it and talk about it now. That is a reason why in many countries, as we said earlier, coping mechanism, why many countries who are extremely poor, they are born poor, they die poor. They are starving every day. But because they practice something religious, whether it's the right thing to do or not, it makes them feel good. And here's some other very important information. If you notice in the United States and throughout the world, there's lots of drug use. Now, for two reasons. Poverty, I got it. But a lot of the higher end drugs are not used by those who are in poverty.
No, they're used by those who are wealthy.
They're used by those who are wealthy. And I can almost suggest, I don't have the data, I can almost suggest that once they've achieved the pinnacle of success, okay?
There's nothing to look forward to.
There's nothing to look forward to. There's no coping mechanism. And religion does provide that. It gives them an outlet to give thanks. Remember we talked a little bit earlier about what some of the purposes of religion are? One of them is to give thanks as kids. Remember, forgiveness and gratitude, as we talked about earlier, in dealing with their imaginary friends. That's why I wanted to plant that stuff earlier, to bring it back up. So yes, there is plenty of room for religion in somebody's life. So when they are successful, I'm going to conclude with this. The other evening, I was watching some YouTube videos. Okay, and they happen to have YouTube videos of the 10 best yachts available for sale in the world. And they showed you the inside of the yachts. You should know of it. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And the cheapest one out of the 10 was $135 million. Okay? And every one of those was for sale. It bothered me. These are billionaires. I can't afford that. These were billionaires. Why are they giving up their boats? Why? Because even with their billions, they have no time for rest and relaxation because they're always pursuing even more. And one of the things that they have found is that when you attend a religious worship, when you are devoted to something, it makes you feel better. They also discovered that when you are living in good conditions and you practice religion, you have a tendency to live longer. And I think the other thing that's really important to remember is that even pre the Torah times, or I don't want to say Torah, Old Testament times, people prior to Abraham, let me rephrase that, religion was an important part because people believed in idols. I'm not saying they were right or wrong, but they needed something religious in their life. Carol, closing comments, observations, give me a few on their behalf.
I think you've said it all. I mean, it makes you stop and think and appreciate the fact that you live in America and that you do have freedom to practice your religion most of the time. Mm-hmm. Because there are, as we said, there are always other facets of groups that are going to attack you for your beliefs.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
So one other question, I'm going to rephrase it. What is worse, again, the religious intolerance for those people that want to practice their religion and can't, or the religious indifference for those that have a lot to be thankful for and who believe in a deity and are not devoted to their belief.
I still say the religious intolerance.
Okay, that's fair.
That's
I'm not here to
good.
convince anybody to change their minds. That's not what the purpose is. Well, I told you this would be deep. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you next time. This is
Carol.
And this is Andy Greenberg. We'll see you next time. We'll make it a little bit more lighthearted next time. But yeah, I thought this might be nice. All right. Take care. We'll see you next time. Be good. Be safe. Be healthy. Bye-bye.